Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed guests. Today I want to invite you on an extraordinary exploratory journey. A journey where the games actually create lessons that we learn in real life. They will serve us well. But I want to ask you a question. Did you know that a game as straightforward as checkers can provide insight into problem solving and decision making, both on the board as well as in real life? I want to ask you another question. When you were a child, was there a game that you remember playing that you can contribute some of your success to today? So just think about that for a moment and just imagine that you are that child and you're sitting there playing games that you enjoyed and you saw as a mere pastime. For me, that game was a game called checkers. My dad introduced this game to me. Now, the board that we played on was an 8x8-inch board. The board contained 64 squares, 32 red and 32 black. We were each given 12 checkers. Most people call the checkers black and white checkers, but the checkers that we actually used were 12 black and the opponent received 12 red. Based on a study done in 2007, they looked at the game of checkers and they was trying to determine what a perfect game of checkers would look like. And so in the midst of the study, they found that since 1989, many people had been trying to find the perfect game of checkers using state-of-the-art intelligence. And the heading of the scientific article said, the game has now been solved. And so what they realized is that when they played a perfect game of checkers on a computer, it always ended in a draw. Now, the same study said that there are over 500 billion possible moves that can be made in the course of a game. So there's something special that happens when two human beings sit down to play this game. It very rarely ends in a draw. Now, someone was asked, can you explain the game of checkers? And so as they sat there and they started to describe the game, they said, just imagine that you have a commander on one side of the battlefield and 12 troops. Now, on the other side of this battlefield, you have 12 troops. One side is going to represent those black checkers. The opposite side is going to represent those white checkers, or red, which are the ones that we play. Now, in order for that commander to win the game, to win the battle against the adversary, they have to strategically think and plan ahead on exactly how they're going to capture each one of those troops on the opposite side, those checkers, all 12. Either they have to capture all 12 or create a situation where they're trapped and they can no longer move. The only thing that they can do is surrender. They have to practice patience. In the game of checkers, you have to be patient and wait until just the right moment to make a move or to capitalize on your opponent's mistakes. They have to practice risk assessment. Before that commander sends his troops in, he or she has to know exactly where every person is. They have to weigh the pros and the cons. They have to assess the risk. Because if I make a move, will it result in a loss or a gain? And so they also have to practice persistence. Even when you feel like you're defeated, you have to find a way to re-strategize and continue to fight. And so as I sat there and I listened to him, I could only smile. And I smiled because I remember sitting in front of my dad at that table And the first thing that my dad did was he taught me the rules of the game. And in life, we have to live by rules in society. And so as I sat there and played with my dad, a lot of times I sat there with my head down and I would want to cry because I didn't want to play anymore, because I started to feel a fear in my stomach. You know how your stomach gets nervous sometimes when you're already anticipating a loss. But I'm reminded of the late Dr. Nelson Mandela when he said that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. He said the brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but it's he who has conquered that fear. And so my dad said, hold your head up, young girl. He said, you're not going to quit. And so he made me play him over and over and over again until I gained the courage. And I started winning games. But I learned some valuable lessons from that. It's not to give up. And I learned how to strategize. Because see, in checkers, you have to be able to strategize. You have to be able to anticipate the moves of your opponent. And you have to adjust and make decisions and be accountable for the decisions that you actually make. And so I sat there and I felt good about it, because now I wanted to play other people. Because it's good. It's something about when we play, we get motivated. And so in 1982, my skills were tested. I found myself in a room that was quiet and still. The person who had taught me how to play checkers, he passed. And so I sat there in that room and with my dad gone, and I tried to figure out, what am I going to do next? I was lost. But as I sat there in that room, I thought about that 8 by 8 inch board with those 64 squares, the 32 black and the 32 red. And I could hear my dad saying, stay calm and stay focused. And it's time for you to make your move. And so I sat there and I started to think about it. I was 17 years old. And I wrote down, okay, I want to go to school and attain a bachelor's degree. And then I wrote again, I want to attain a master's degree. And then I went back to that list and I said, I want to attain a PhD. And I wrote on the list again that I wanted to be a published author. And it was through this game that I played with my dad that I knew that I could not give up. And things got hard. But just like in that game of checkers, I had to be flexible. I had to be able to adjust and adapt to the situations that I encountered. These are the lessons I learned playing the game with my dad. I had to be persistent. I had to be determined. I had to be resilient. And because of that, I can stand here today and say that I attained that master's degree and that bachelor's degree. And I'm currently working on a PhD, my dissertation for that. So as you leave here today, I want you to be reminded of the lessons learned through a game called checkers. That you have the power to shape your destiny and to challenge the limits that have been put on you, and seize every moment with courage and wisdom. I want you to embrace the game and embrace your life and journey through life with strategic brilliance and resilient triumphs.